A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I just wanted to record another video today, or I guess technically it's the next day. I had just finished recording a review of Fahrenheit 451, and I was looking around and I realized I really need to do some book haul videos so I can get some of these books moved to where they need to be. Namely, I have some I want to put here. So that can't be done until I do a book haul video. And the theme of this particular video's book haul is to be fairy tales. Excuse me. Kind of feel like I sound a little raspy or something. Not raspy, but meh. So apologies for that. So I have a fondness for fairy tales in general. I enjoy the different stories that people would tell their children to either impart wisdom or just the kind of weird little cultural stories that if you're not of that culture, you might not have grown up with, or even just where different cultural stories interact, where they have commonalities, like your Cinderella stories or other aspects that you'll see crisscrossing across cultures. To start off with, though, I wanted to show, I've been meaning to get for myself Tolkien's on fairy stories, but this one apparently, besides having Tolkien's actual essay on fairy stories, it also has commentary and notes, which will make this particularly enjoyable. I believe a part of his essay, I believe I have a part of his essay in my copy of the Silmarillion, but I definitely do not have the commentary. So I look forward to exploring this. Now, as for, I just want to move this out of my way. There we go. Actually, I want to show this book of fairy stories first, or folk tales first, because this is the one I'm currently reading. Norwegian folk tales, selected from the collection of Peter Kristen, Asbjornsen and Jorgen Moe. Now, this is a book from the Pantheon Fairy Tale and Folklore Library, and that's where most of my books will be coming. Will be coming from. I'm having trouble speaking today, apparently. The edition that is put out by Pantheon has an interesting introduction, which goes through a bit of a history about the compilers of these stories, as well as some history on the artists who are artists, or who were artists that were picked specifically by the compilers. So back in I think this was put together in the 1800s. Let's see. This is put together a little bit after, 1800s. This is put together a little after the Grimms put together their book of fairy tales and folklore. Fairy tales and folklore. I swear I can't speak. Must be because it is a little after 2 a.m. 4 a.m. Whoops. several hours went by. A little after 4 a.m. So maybe that explains my difficulty speaking right now. So yes, I am enjoying this. With the Norwegian, I have noticed in the past there are several stories that have aspects of them repeated, like the prince, or not even a prince usually, a young man of some sort. It can be he can come from like a group of 3, or he might come by himself, but he will usually, in this particular kind of story, will have to rescue 3 princesses from 3 different trolls, with the heads growing greater in number each time, and he has to usually drink from some sort of flask to get strength. This is a theme that repeats in several different stories, so I don't know if these were stories that started from a base story and then just like different regions created their own versions that kind of branched off from the original, or what, but this is something that shows up more than once in Norwegian folk tales. Then next, I have to show, and some of these I haven't looked at really hardly at all. This one I did start until my Norwegian one came in, and I was like, oh, I can finish the Norwegian one quicker. Let me do that one. I already know I like Norwegian. But the Russian folk tales, I'm sorry, it actually says Russian fairy tales. I swear, they're trying to confuse me. This is another Pantheon fairy tale and folklore library book. And text is really nice. Now, the art in this one almost has more of a woodcut type feel to it. Now, there was not an introduction to this one, but I believe there's a commentary in the back. Yeah, there's a commentary in the back. So I will look through that once I get to that point. Now, I do find it interesting that sometimes you'll have a story that's like half a page, and you wonder, like, how did this little story make it through the ages? Or is there a bigger story that we're missing and only a scrap of it survived? I just find it interesting when that happens. Like, oh, this one that's called The Turnip, for example, that's only from here to here. That's it. And it's not like it really has much of a moral to it, other than maybe work together. It's just interesting what makes it through and what doesn't. So that's my one on Russian fairy tales, and that's going to be on top of my Morte Arthur over here. My copy of Morte Arthur is by Dorsey Armstrong, or excuse me, translated by Dorsey Armstrong. had taken, done multiple times, her classes that she has on the great courses. She has one on, well, first of all, Arthur, then on the Black Death. What else does she have on there? All of her courses that she has on the great courses site, I have, and I believe I've actually watched them all. And because of her, that is why I picked up this. I haven't really had a chance to go through it fully. I also didn't realize I had a copy of this in an Oxford World's Classic. This translation looks like it's a little bit easier to navigate, but I will compare and contrast and see if I end up keeping both. Chances are I'll probably end up keeping this one. I don't know what I just knocked over. Hopefully it wasn't too important. Did you lose your brain? This is my migraine bunny. There we go. Stay. Okay, Russian fairy tales are there. Okay, I haven't looked at this one at all. This is the Victorian Fairy Book. Another Pantheon fairy tale and folklore library book. That's a nice cover. Much nicer than the one for the Norwegian folktales. I feel like the artwork in the Norwegian folktales really isn't given a fair shake, or really it's not represented well with this artwork. This artwork's kind of not that great, whereas the artwork in the actual work is rather nice. But if the art for Victorian fairy tale book is as nice as the cover, I have something I can look forward to. Let's see if I can find an example. Okay, I know that there's already, here we go. Well, it's hard to really tell. That looks decent. And from what I understand, these are particularly British in origin. Now, I haven't heard of some of these, like the Little Lame Prince and His Traveling Cloak. I've never heard of that one. The Rose and the Ring. So it looks like I'll be getting exposure. Okay, now, of course, the Pied Piper. There's one I've heard. Okay. I feel like I've heard the King of the Golden River, but some of these will be interesting because I haven't heard anything quite like it, which is not what I expected of the British end of things. I actually have greater familiarity with some of the Norwegian and Russian, it seems, or like the Italian and Grimm. Well, of course, the German ones from Grimm. Next we have here, now I know next to nothing about the folklore here. Irish folk tales. Again, Pantheon Fairy Tale and Folklore Library. I probably should stop saying that and just, unless I state otherwise, it's going to be from the Pantheon. It's Fairy Tale and Folklore Library. So they aren't giving me any art on the front, so I don't know if I won't get any art. Well, I'm not. Oh, here we go. There's some art, so at least I get a little bit. It looks like it's arranged by maybe lesson it's trying to teach, because here's one about wit. There's about faith. And there's the picture for faith. The old story. So you're getting things like the legend of Knockfierna. And it's giving you like where it, like this comes from Cork, it looks like. The King of Ireland's Son. I feel like I've heard the King of Ireland's Son. Mystery. So this one, most of it, its artwork seems to be when it's introducing each section. So here's history. Now I don't know if there's any commentary on this one. Bibliography. Notes. Okay, there is an introduction. So that's another one to look forward to. I'll organize this in some sort of way afterwards. I think I might put them in alphabetical when I'm done. Although Russian might be on the front, on the top, just because I have actually started that one. We'll see. Then next is favorite folk tales from around the world. And I wanted this one because there might be some areas of the world where I'm not sure if I'd be interested in delving into all of their tales, but maybe I just want a sampling. And I'm glad that I have this, because besides the ones that are a little bit, oopsie, that page was bent. I got all these used, so I'm actually surprised they're all in as good shape as they are. So I don't expect, for one thing, the artwork to be as specific to the compilers or to the region as the previous books, simply because we're having a bunch of different cultures represented. And I'm seeing here that, yes, it seems to be a lot more generic. But I see here's France represented. Oh, I like the White Cat. I like that story. If you've ever wanted a podcast that deals with fairy tales and folk tales, there is the Myths and Legends podcast. And that's where I first really started getting some more interest into the fairy tales and folk tales that I hadn't really thought about for years. And there is also a booktuber who discusses fairy tales, and I believe she has a channel named like Children's Literature, something like that. I will try to tag her below so that way you can give her some love, because she does a series where she tells fairy tales while she's roasting marshmallows by a fire pit. So it's really a kind of cool ambiance, and she puts a lot of thought and effort into the storytelling. So I really recommend checking out her channel. Okay, so they have a story from Haiti, for example. And let's see some other ones. I saw one that I was like, oh yeah, I might not have picked up a full book on that. Well, there's one from Spain. Greece. So we have Greece over here. Syria. Afghanistan, Hungary, Saudi Arabia. So this will give me a good sampling, either to go on further or just to go like, oh, that's cool. Now I have a little bit more of that culture that I know about. You know, I don't think this is going to work between us. You're going to sit here. Next are the Italian folk tales. And let's see what sort of art we have to look forward to here. It looks like it's mostly little, almost like woodcut. And doesn't seem like they're very big, unlike some of the previous works. And some of these, I'm not, actually a lot of these I don't seem to be familiar with. Dead Man's Arm, The Cloven Youth, Silent for 7 Years, The Billiards Player. It does have an introduction to it, which I'm going to enjoy. I just wanted to see if it has their Cinderella story, because this, I know that Italy does have one. Oh, there's just a ton of stories in here. There are 200 different fairy tales in here of varying lengths. So I will discover if the Italian Cinderella story is in here once I finally get to reading this. Now this one, first of all, it came with somebody's chopstick holder. So I'll keep that in here. Ooh, actually has nice artwork in it. In case you haven't been able to tell, these are the Chinese fairy tales and fantasies. And it just sounded like this one could be interesting. I haven't personally had a ton of interest in the Japanese ones necessarily, but I could always check those out later if I want to. But the Chinese ones seem to be interesting, and the art in here looks nice. This is going way out of my normal exposure in fairy tales. Now this one, they're folk tales of British Isles. And they have sections as well, it looks like. Yeah, because here's one about fabulous beasts, it looks like. And its artwork is interesting. And I'm hoping that the introduction will give me an idea why they made the creative choices that they did. This Sleeping Warriors. So here's a section, okay, this is Origins and Causes. Looks like you have a section on fairies. Here we go. Story of Tom Thumb, and it looks like I have a bookmark. I think thus far the Story of Tom Thumb is the only one that I have immediately recognized. It does have an old book smell to it, slightly. Yes, I have a lot of fairy tales here. Now here will be some classics, the French folk tales, and these are particularly the Henri Poirot. I don't speak French, but that's my best attempt at that. And this is a very, I rather like the style of this. It's got a very, I don't know, old world kind of feel to it. Like this one for bandits here. It looks like some of them are a little bit longer than I see in certainly other books. Some, because a lot of times I've noticed that you can read through most of the fairy tales pretty quickly because they're short little stories. But a couple of these French ones seem to have a little bit more length to them. Yeah, The Children of the Sea is 17. Is about 9 pages long, which is, I mean, on the longer end for a fairy tale. But this one also has an introduction, and they also have sections, which is always fun. So fairy enchantments, the devil, bandits around the village, the mad and the wise, bestiary. So this one has like the black cat, for example. Are they gonna have the white cat in here? I mean, if they don't, my Around the World one does. Because I rather like the white cat. Oh, here we go. It's the first one for Love and Marriage, the white cat. I like the cover for this one, and it actually matches the artwork on the inside, which is nice. Next, I have in time for, what is it, June Home on the Range. If I wanted to explore a couple of these, I have Legends and Tales of the American West, of which I really feel like I am rather lacking in my knowledge of quite a bit of American folklore. There we go. I feel like I know more of the European folklore. Here we go. I mean, expect to find like John Henry in here. Or maybe the Devil and Daniel Webster. But, let's see. Yeah, I'm not recognizing any of these. Again, they have this in sections. So they have Ohio Fever, The Long Hunters, Backwoodsman. Oh, there's Jim Bowie, Davy Crockett. Okay, actually I do recognize some of these, even though it's been a long time since I've thought about any of these. Ring-tailed Roarers of the Western Waters, Mountain Men. I feel like I've heard of Kit Carson, but I don't know a whole lot about his story. Timber, Paul Bunyan. Okay, I haven't thought of, wow, I haven't thought of Paul Bunyan in forever. Golds. Don't know any of the stories from there. Get Along, Little Dogies. Pecos Bill. That's like the only thing I recognize from there. They Die with Their Boots On. Okay, well, it talks about the James Boys. It looks like they're including, I guess it'd be the folk tales that built around the James Boys. Bucking the Tiger, another Jim Bowie story in there. Lady Wildcats of the Plains. Calamity Jane. Okay. The Man Who Never Was. Never heard of Deadwood Dick. Huh. I'm looking to see if we had... I thought his name was John Henry. I mean, do you guys remember it was an old Disney movie? I want to say it was called Tall Tale. And it had like a bunch of American legends. I thought the guy's name was John Henry. He was... I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering. I guess I'll find out through going through here. Oh. The Call of the Wild's in here? 365. I wouldn't have expected that. No, it's just called a similar thing. Maybe it's not the Call of the Wild. Okay, no, this is something else. It just happens to have a similar title. Okay. So, there's Legends and Tales of the American West. Getting down to the last of it. Only a few more. And unsurprisingly, here is Grimm's. I rather like the art on Grimm's. Now that's fair. I kind of feel like the artwork for the Norwegian one has been the nicest. Although I do feel like the art that I'm seeing in each of them do feel like they're appropriate to the works. They don't seem to be out of place, which I rather like. Now I want to say this one also has an introduction to it. We should probably have well over... Yeah, we have 210 tales. I think that's 10 more than the Italian one, I want to say. Maybe it's the Russian one that has 200. One of these two has 200. I can't remember. But yeah, this one looks like it has an introduction. And I want to say it also has a section in the back as well. Yes, it looks like it's a whole thing about the Grimm brothers in the back. Yeah, Folklore's commentary, which I'm going to very much enjoy. 3 more books. I told you I was building my folklore library. The Old Wives' Fairy Tale book. And I don't really quite know what to expect here. Apparently the tales are going to be more focused on women. I think. Here's one. But this is another one. It looks like it's around the world. The artwork on here. Ooh, I like that bunny. The artwork on here is interesting. Oh, that's a Swahili tale. Eskimo tale. So this is another around the world one, which is kind of cool. It's probably going to touch things that were missed in the other one. So I'm not quite sure what's going to connect these. So I'm interested in experiencing that. I was surprised to find this in the Pantheon Fairy Tale and Folklore Library, although I suppose I shouldn't have been. I think I was surprised because these were actually, as far as I understand anyway, stories created by Hans Christian Andersen, whereas the rest of these were folk tales gathered by different folklorists, gathering different stories through the ages, whereas this is the progenitor of all tales, as far as I recall. Now, the artwork for this one's very nice, too. My cover's a little beaten up, but I mean, if that's all I have to worry about from a used copy, I'm doing pretty well. Now, I do believe that I will find that I know quite a few of these. I remember Dad reading us various different Hans Christian Andersen stories growing up. So I'm expecting to know quite a few of these. Or at least have a passing familiarity. So I look forward to these as well. And finally, Scandinavian folk and fairy tales. I think I might have maybe one or two other fairy tale books I'm missing that I'm expecting, but this one is not part of the Pantheon fairy tale and folk tale library. But I love the artwork in it, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to be getting West of the Sun. I'm sorry, it's East of the Sun, West of the Moon, excuse me. Because I really love that story. Yeah, East of the Sun and West of the Moon. And I wanted to make sure that I would be getting that. Now, I do anticipate that I will be seeing some repetition where something like the Norwegian fairy tales might have some of these. But I noticed when I compared that there were quite a bit more in this than there was in this particular book. And it's like, okay, some things are missing. And I did a similar comparison between the Swedish section in this book and the other Swedish fairy tales. And one of the two books, I believe the other Swedish fairy tale books had a lot more than this included of Swedish fairy tales. So in order to just get a little bit more of the stories, I'm okay dealing with a little bit of overlap. Oh, I didn't know the Ugly Duckling. Oh, it's a Hans Christian Andersen. Oh, is he Denmark? I mean, I guess the name does sound like it would be. So looks like there's a section that is also specifically in the Denmark section, Hans Christian Andersen. So I'm going to be having some crossover there. But this is a beautiful book as well. This one might go on the bottom because it's so much bigger than the others. But that is my fairy tale collection. Now I'll have that as a backdrop. I was thinking about having my migraine bunny on top of that, but until I am able to stack the books I intend to be behind him, I don't really feel like he will be sturdy enough up there. But anyway, now I can access my fairy tale books whenever I feel like grabbing one. I do plan on kind of keeping them as this tower of fairy tales and folk tales because I plan on having another section of books that will tower and kind of give it support there. Thank you very much for joining me for this book haul of fairy tales and folk tales. I hope to just be able to share with you my journey through the different cultures of the world and seeing what similarities I can find throughout. And as I eventually read this with Tolkien and the commentary about Tolkien's work, see if that also affects the way I end up approaching the fairy tales as I read them and reread them. So thank you very much for joining me. I do feel like I was a little bit less coherent today just because, for one thing, my mouth is dry, and for another thing, I just feel a little bit muddle-headed. But the main objective has been obtained. I now have my fairy tale books where I can access them easily, and now they will serve like a kind of side backdrop here, but most importantly, they're out of the way and I can access them. Thank you very much for joining me. I will see you for the next video. God bless. Bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.